Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Barry Keith Alexander, Michael Niall Anderson, Michael David Armstrong, Herman John Baer, Benjamin Franklin Barnett, Richard Paul Bartle, Leo Albert Beach, Jr., Dexter Bell, Thomas Howard Benton, Gary Paul Bland, James Roger Boyer, Dennis Dale Bradley, Glenn Martin Bradley, Jackie Ray Brooks, Sergeant J. Broshier, Harold Raymond Brubaker, Blackshear M. Bryan, Jr., Robert Henry Bueller, Eugene Leroy Burby, Robert John Burns, Woodrow Michael Kennedy, Richard P. Caputo, Clifford Leslie Clark III, Hugh Conrad Clausen, Eugene Francis Cormier, Joel Crockett, Billy Jackson Daly, Joseph Nicholas Davie, William Stanley Davis, James Jr. Dew, James T. Donahue, Jr., Danny Lee Dupre, Larry Wayne Ellis, Richard William Falk, Bobby George Fields, William John Fisher, Michael James Gambino, Stephen Carl Gasson, Paul Gerard Giroir, Roscoe Glover, Jr., Fred Edward Gold, Frank Cavosos Gonzalez, Herschel Lee Walto Gossett, David Teeson Graham, Jr., Carl Madison Green, Robert Lee Hager, Jr., James Henry Hall, Adolph Brinkman Ham, Jr., Ronald Arthur Heinz, Roy Lee Henley, James Curtis Hensley, Ramiro Herrera, Jr., James Raymond Hockett, Robert Frank Hinneke, William Joseph Houston, Ronald Iller, Charles Egbert Jackins, Stephen Frederick Gendrich, Larry Dean Johnson, Joe Thomas Johnson, Johnny Carroll Jones, Robert Patrick Keemer, Harold Bruce Kimbrough, Billy Brown King,
Charles Allen Knockel, David Anthony Kreisen, Charles Frederick Coleman, Larry Lee Lakey, Gary Grant Lamb, Johnny Carl Lawson, Jr., Willie Ray Lay, Randall Patrick Less, David Lewis Lykate, Leon Leroy Lochthow, Eric Anthony Lord, James Alex Lubas, Joseph Mark Mazone, Ralph Lindsay McCoy, Jr., William Lloyd McFarland, Clinton Eugene Miller, Francisco Hernandez Moreno, Samuel Ennis Murph, Norman Joseph Napierada, Nicholas Lee Natske, Natalie Nowosinsky, Vernon Lee Ostertag, Charlie Lopez Partida, William Gerald Peeler, David Eugene Person, Henry Richardson Phillips, John Howard Priesthoff II, Jose Carmelo Rentas Jr., Tommy Wayne Robertson, Gregory Wayne Rogers, Samuel Rosas Sanz, Bruce Elliott Sagarian, Nathan Ray Sales, Merrill Gerald Cervela, James Bernard Scott, Calvin Russell Sagar, David Lawrence Schaefer, Stephen Glenn Shirk, George Leonard Shook Jr., James David Smith, Thurman Horace Smith, Frederick Joseph Smith, Frank Morris Streaks Jr., Mark Wayne Serber, James Richard Teffs, James Taylor Tucker, Modesto Valdez, William Wayne Van Mater, Joel Barry Warshawski, Walter Lewis Wells, John David Williams, Johnny Lee Williams Jr., George Wykinski Jr., James Irvine Yates,